Hi, VMA Art House presents Conversations with Sophia. Today I'm delighted to be at Bristol Cellars, where we are going to have a lively and provocative and tasty conversation with the sommelier, Mr. Kyle Stubbs. We will be right back. Hi, so we're back. Now, all year long we were talking about wines and spirits and sweets and art and so on. We're at the end of the year, and I feel it's just appropriate that we are in Bristol Cellars, one of the leading drink companies in the Bahamas, where we're going to talk about how you pair wine with your Christmas dinner. Now, I'm talking with Mr. Stubbs. He is, first of all, I believe, one of, if not the only, sommelier in the Bahamas. Credentialed, smart as a whip, no, easy on the eyes, you know, all in him. But he's going to talk to us about how do we pair a white, a red, with the traditional Christmas dinner. Mr. Stubbs, first of all, welcome. And in fact, thank you for having me here in the cellars of Bristol. And we're going to talk, tell me what we're going to talk about today. I'm here to taste. I just want you to know, I'm here to taste the wines. Somewhere in the world, someone is tasting wine today.
Right now, absolutely. So we're excited to have you here with us here at Bristol Wines and Spirits, especially at the end of an interesting, trying, and interesting year, right? We're all trying to make sense of it and trying to regroup and refocus and pivot and make certain that 2021 is much better.
And drinks help with that.
Most definitely. And what we like at Bristol Wines and Spirits is we believe that the more you are intimate and knowledgeable about your spirits, the more you enjoy as opposed to abuse. So these opportunities we find we find delight in having these opportunities to share a little bit more information about wine. So we're going to dive into that. Firstly, just a quick little note, but what I do here at Bristol is three parts. Is primarily with the remainder of our wine team, we taste on a weekly basis as we have our ears to the ground and an understanding as to the Bahamian palate and how is it maturing. So with wines, we need to be moving and discontinuing. So we're staying trendy with the product in our portfolio. Secondly, it's training. So all of our hotels and restaurants from Grand Bahama in the north to Nagua in the south, we're very focused on service training and product knowledge training, so that we are offering that level of wine service in restaurants that our professional travelers are accustomed to wherever they are, right?
Absolutely.
And then finally, but by no means the least, is these opportunities, activations and advocacy, where we bring a little bit more information and experiences around wine and food. And having recently returned back to Nassau proper 2 years ago and the Bahamas 4 years ago, I've made it a personal mission to find these opportunities to speak about Bahamian culture, Bahamian food, and wine. And so it's awesome that as we try and figure out how we will make sense of this holiday season and this Christmas, I think it's important for us to have wine in the conversation and wine at the dinner table.
I want to just ask you before we delve into the wine. I know I taught you some time ago, we're not going to date ourselves,
please.
You're one of our really bright and shining stars from the hospitality and tourism program at the University of the Bahamas now. When we talk about, you mentioned that you go into the hotels and you train, I guess, bartenders and those persons who are in the business of serving wines and spirits and so forth. Are you cognizant of the kinds of tourists that generally come here, or the changing trends in the kinds of tourists that come here, so that if we are perhaps focusing on bringing in tourists from some of the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, what kinds of wines and beverages they would prefer to have as they are vacationing or whatever?
100%. I love that question because folks believe everybody drinks everything, and we just look at how our tourism market is segmented, right? And certain properties and certain islands attract certain demographics of tourists. So we look at San Salvador and Club Med and our direct flights from Europe. And so they have a very heavy European presence on their wine list. A lot of French rosés, a lot of Bordeaux, a lot of Burgundy kind of stuff. So wines that their customers are familiar with. We look at us here inside Nassau, we look at the private clubs. Again, the affluential millionaires and billionaires who are accustomed to certain kind of things. So even if they come from North America, that status of wealth still have them enjoying the most premium wines in the world, which still come to us from Italy and France kind of thing. And then we look at our, you know, our fun destination resorts like Bahama, Atlantis, and so on, where we are dominated by the leisure tourists. And so they still want something that they're familiar with too. And so you will see that those properties, they're a little bit more heavy on the North American wines that those folks are familiar with and the brands that they can. So, you know, it's not everybody drinks everything. So it's literally based on a particular account, a particular hotel, a particular restaurant, and we sit down and we analyze and have meaningful conversations with the proprietors as to, you know, what's your clientele like, you know, what's your seasonality of the business. And so, you know, we understand if this is a set menu that we're looking for 12 months, or we're going to go red heavy in the fall and the winter, and we're going to do a little bit of light whites and rosés in the spring and the summer kind of thing. So, you know, it's very intricate, account by account, restaurant by restaurant. And at the end of the day, you know, we're not here to push 200 cases on you. We're here to form a mutual beneficial relationship, whereas we can assist you to meeting your customer's need kind of thing.
And I know that there are a couple of Bahamians who have delved into the wine business. And so, and then of course you have your local beverages as well. So you also have to know when to introduce some of those local flavors into the palate of high-end, moderate, and I mean, regular tourists.
Awesome point again. If you look at one of the most successful wine brands this year has been the Believe wine brand, right?
Yes.
A Bahamian entrepreneur, Bahamian musician, and we were able to Bristol's understand and attach with that and bring them on board and become their official distributor. But that gives us an opportunity now to say, hey, a range of 5 different styles of wines, but their focus out of the gate was Bahamian food and wine. So we understand, okay, you know, we're supporting an entrepreneur who is bringing that, bridging that gap between, you know, we've always had a super food culture, right? And then beer has been our only, you know, even though we come from a rum drinking background.
Absolutely.
But wine lends itself to be that much more suitable on the side of food. And I think that brand, Believe, has done a wonderful job during this pandemic here to kind of bring those two together. But, you know, it's certain times for certain wines, a certain food for certain wines, and then again, certain accounts dictate certain things.
All right, let's get into why we are here. You know, that's all a good conversation. You could find that on someplace else. We're going to talk about wine now.
Most definitely. So these are just some wines I brought out, Dr. Roll, that I think, you know, everyone should have access to. And one, if not two of them, should be present at the Christmas dinner table.
All right.
So we have here a nice Riesling, Chateau Ste. Michelle Riesling from Washington State. Riesling is that great. You know, we can get it in a semi-sweet style, we can get it in a sweet style, or we can get it in a dry style.
Yes.
This is semi-sweet, and I brought this to the table. You know, we're in the Caribbean, we're Bahamians, we like a little spice no matter what it is, right? Somebody somewhere might even say, you know, I'm going to put some hot sauce on my turkey. That's your thing. But we want to be able to have a wine on the side of that kind of thing. So this is our wine in case there's anything spicy. We do a nice little seafood stuffing and we have some spice to that. Or, you know, we also step out of the traditional for Christmas. Ham and turkey is going to be there, but sometimes fried fish is going to show up, right?
Lobster, you know.
Absolutely. So the minerality in this wine is going to allow it to sit fantastically with all of our seafoods. And then the touch of sweetness is going to allow it to sit on the side of anything that has a little spice component. You know, say when you eat pepper, coat your tongue with whole milk, it's the same kind of thing with Riesling. Right.
Okay.
Chardonnay is that multi-purpose white wine that just has to be present. I love Chardonnays because they don't discriminate. It'll sit on the side of a meat, it'll sit on the side of a seafood.
And both of those should be served chilled.
Most definitely. And so this is a Josh North Coast Reserve. So it's coming from 3 appellations, bringing together some different climatic contributions, but it expresses itself fantastically, the red apple notes. goes through some processes that gives it like a buttery sensation. So you think of how we treat our dishes, we always sauteing down our herbs in butter before we do anything else, right? But that malolactic fermentation gives that buttery and creamy taste. So you think about how we do pastas and stuff, you know. This is going to be an interesting Christmas. Not everybody's going to have ham and turkey. Some people are going to step down and say it's going to be, you know, stuffed chicken. Some people are going to go another step down and say it's going to be Cornish hen. And some people are going to say, hey, it's going to be what's in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
It could be, you know, fettuccinis of sorts. It can be some salmon steaks that's still hanging around, so we just do a quick little sear. But Chardonnay should just be there because it's on the side of seafood, it's on the side of meat, and it does perfectly.
And just to be certain, you can be drinking this while you are preparing your food. I'm just saying. So you need more than one bottle. I'm just saying.
Right. My predecessor, I love him, Rusty Skates, and he has some very witty comments and said, he said, I love to cook with wine. Sometimes I even put it in the food, right? So,
absolutely. Same kind of concept here. This is what I'm advocating.
Absolutely. Right? So the partner to this reserve Chardonnay is a reserve Cab, right? Depending on what's on
and that's
the
Cabernet
Sauvignon, absolutely. Depending on what's on the table, this might be a little bit heavy, but this is just a nice Cabernet to enjoy, to say, you know, while we're waiting on everybody to come over. The company authority says there's 10 of us that are allowing Christmas Day, and my family is 4, and we have invited 6 over. This is going to be the glass that I'm enjoying while I'm waiting on everybody else to come through. Now, the wine that I'm going to enjoy with my meal, red wine-wise, is going to be the Merlot.
The Merlot,
yes,
okay.
This is right here.
So we can bring that one up. So the Merlot is served with the meal.
Absolutely.
The Cabernet Sauvignon is served prior to, while you're waiting, while you're hosting. You probably want to serve some hors d'oeuvres or stuff like that. Right. You can serve the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Nice conversation starter.
Yes, a good conversation. Loosen the tongue a little bit. The whites served chilled. While you're sweating in the kitchen, you're going to have a little bit of that.
Refresh.
While you're waiting on your guests, you're already in a wonderful mood. You know, dressed nice, you're serving hors d'oeuvres, just relaxing. You're going to have the Cabernet Sauvignon, and then the Merlot is with the dinner.
Absolutely. So the Merlots are that medium body wine with relaxed tannins, but the tannins are there, and it's a relaxed acidity, so the lift in the back of the palate isn't as intense.
Correct.
Which makes it a soft enough wine to sit on the side of all of our poultry, right? So we spoke about, you know, if we're still going big with the turkey, are we stepping down with the chicken, or are we going a little bit lower with the Cornish hen? Fantastic. I know some folks are also going to be, you know, toying with their culinary creativeness.
Absolutely.
So some people might have some duck that shows up.
Yes.
Right?
Or lamb or something like that.
Lamb,
yes.
Right? Fantastic with both. Right? So even our fatty poultry, this Merlot is still going to be fantastic with.
Great.
And even stepping up a little bit more, the texture of the lamb, this is still going to be fantastic.
Wonderful.
Between that Merlot and that Cabernet, we have all of your red meats covered, right? And between this Riesling and that Chardonnay, we have all of your seafood and your spice covered.
Something interesting I want you to note with what Kyle is saying, wines are paired with the meat, not with the side dishes or the rice or anything. That's important to understand. You pair your wine with whatever meat or
it's the meat,
poultry that you're serving.
Absolutely.
So
the only thing that we're very careful of, on top of that, there's some very potent spices that can alter some things like rosemary, right, thyme, and so we also want to be cognizant as to if there is a very distinctive spice that comes to not only on the meat or the sauce that comes with the meat, but any side that we have. And then we just could go a little bit more technical in us understanding, you know, does the spice bring, you know, what element? Are we on the savory side of things? Are we on the sweet side of things? Are we on the bitter side of things?
Right.
And then that dictate what kind of wine we bring to the table, because those distinct flavors could distort the wine.
Absolutely.
And make it feel flabby or a little bit more acidic kind of thing. But you're 100%. First and foremost, most success comes with identifying that protein with the wine, and then everything else falls into place.
Right. So now this is the segment where that I'm really excited about, where we're going to actually taste. Now, for me, Kyle, I'm a dry wine kind of person. I like it dry. The drier, the better for me. But I know Bahamians in particular love a sweet wine. How do we determine from the outset the amount of sugars in a wine. I know that because
I drink wine.
I drink wine. I know that, okay? But how do you go about determining through the tasting process how much sugar is in the wine and whether or not, even if it's a Merlot, it's a Cabernet, it's Pinot Grigio seem to be popular wines in the Bahamas right now. How do you determine whether it's sweet or, because you don't want, I always find if you have guests over and you're serving your favorite wines, I'm a dry kind of person, dry wine kind of person, and then, but I want something sweet. That could make or break your entertainment pattern. So how do you know?
Dr. Will, you're asking some awesome questions because I battle with that all of the time, right? And folks, they almost try to make it seem like, you're almost there in terms of what you were trying to accomplish.
Yes.
But you didn't have the sweet wine.
Yes.
Right? And the sweet wine we're looking for is the completely sweet wine. So there's a couple of things that's happened. Depending on how we manipulate the wine making process, and when we stop fermentation, we can leave some sugar in the end, right? This is natural sugar we're talking about, and we call it residual sugar.
Right.
So depending on where we stop that and the amount of sugar, it tells us, how sweet this wine is going to be. Beyond that, the winemaker has all kind of tools in their arsenal that they can do.
Right.
So they can stop this fermentation process to leave this natural sugar, plus they can reintroduce some kind of sweetener of sort to this.
Right.
There's a lot of wines in our market where they reintroduce some sweet, and that's what we really go crazy for. But I just like to step people up from that. So if we think of that generic sweet wine into something that still has a lot of natural sugar in it, it falls on the palate, on the sweet palate of the tongue, so it gives that impression. But on the finish, you get everything else you get from the dry wine, the minerality, and the acid component kind of thing. And so it's literally where that, if we don't do a complete fermentation, that means we intentionally stopped it at some point to leave that residual sugar.
Okay.
Now we taste that and we feel that and we love that and enjoy that on that front end of our palate, right? So we'll get that experience a little bit here in this Riesling, but that's us, right? I mean, we're still eating baggy and drinking cup like it's 85 when I came around, right? So we still love that heavy sweetness and sugar on the front end of the palate. And so that's how we can detect it in the wine. Even if we were to open the Merlot and the Cabernet today, the Merlot is going to hang around in the front part of the palate a little bit longer. That's going to give us the indication of it's a sweeter impression or a riper fruit, not necessarily a sweet wine kind of thing. But between sweet and dry is that fermentation process and the amount of residual sugar that's left in that determines between a dry wine and a sweet wine.
Okay, so back in the day, long time ago, we were taught that, I guess one of the methods, if you even before you taste, of determining how sweet a wine is how quickly it runs down the sides of the glass. So you would pour a little bit out, you do your twirling kind of thing, and then if it runs down very, very quickly, that means it's a heavier wine, first of all, and there's a heavier sugar content in the wine. So I don't know if you might want to demonstrate that a little bit for our audience. So if it comes down the sides of the glass very, very quickly, once you not pour it out, but you do your twirl.
Yes.
I need to take, let me just see how this works. I'm going to put my glasses on for that so I can make sure I see it properly. And so.
All right, so it's a nice little swirl and we look to see.
Nice little twirl. And actually it's coming down very, very slowly. So that means it's not entirely a very, very sweet wine. So already I know that I'm going to like this. This is how I test my wines even before I put it on my palate to determine whether it's going to be one of them sweet, sweet ones or it's going to be nice and light and dry and yes. Ooh. If you could just smell this.
Some nice honeyed notes, like something sweetened in it, right?
Yes.
Something nutty, and then it's a nice aroma.
Nice aroma, nice aroma.
Right. And then
now we don't have on the table today anything to break the palate, so because we're going to be tasting 2 or 3 wines today, but to break your palate,
Yeah, so it's
you want to do all of this before you start serving and stuff, eh?
You'll have a little bread or some crackers nearby, not some heavy cheeses, but some good cheeses. Maybe some coffee beans hanging around, and it's just to keep your palate and everything else cleansed. But if and if you by any chance brought 4 wines to the Christmas table, it's okay to open them up before your guests arrive and take a sip and take a bite of bread. Okay, that's good. And take a sip and bread, that's good. Okay, the wines are good for my guests.
Absolutely. Just taste them all.
Yeah,
taste them all.
It doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt at all. This is actually very, very nice. And the colder this is actually, it's going to be very, very good. So you said this is a Riesling. And where can we find this?
So this fantastic bottle is available in all Bristol Wines and Spirits, as well as here at Premier Crew, where we're enjoying our time this morning. And this is also on our Christmas sale. And I just gave Dr. Roll a little heads up, and I'll let you all know as well. We're going to extend it until the 31st of December. Until the 31st of December. Can't beat that, eh? Yeah, you cannot beat that. But yeah, this is, the minerality, like I said, is on the end. The fruit character and the sweetness is in the front. And then there's a nice warm sensation as it goes down.
Wonderful. Beautiful.
I just love it.
Now, since this is going to be an education, we're going to wrap up by just talking. I want to talk about, while you're opening that, you want to give the appearance of sophistication when you are serving your wine or when your guests come over and so forth. Now, how do we hold the wine glass? Absolutely. Because it hurts because a number of people just do like this. This is so wrong. It's so wrong. It doesn't look attractive. Not at all. It can quickly change the temperature of the wine in the glass. But you speak about the look of sophistication, right? And so for us, as a service team members or somebody enjoying a glass of wine, the stem and the base is the only thing that we hold on to, right? Exactly. It looks good. It looks good. And the wine is not going to tip over. No, and it's, and you shouldn't fill the wine glass straight up to the top either. Right. Depending on the size of the glass. So we're doing some smaller, these resemble the official tasting wine glasses, but we usually say just to the top of the butt of the glass. And then the wider glasses. That's the butt. Absolutely. Right at the top. The standard serving size is 5 ounces. Right? There you go. And so, but it's the holiday season, so if you drink a 7 or a 10 ounce glass. But that way you could have more than one glass. That is true. That is true too, right? You drink 7 or 8 ounces one go, then you think that's it. But if you do 5 ounces, definitely you could for a second glass. So. Awesome. We're going to just. And that's our first segment of the show. And we're going to come back in 1 minute, just wrap up with our tasting of either the Chardonnay or the Sauvignon, the Cabernet Sauvignon. Or the Merlot. And so we'll be right back.